give us a bit of context. What is this project, and who is it supported by, and what are we hoping that the data will tell us?
Yeah, so my name's Alice, and I'm a research manager. And we're doing this piece of research supported by google.org, which is the philanthropic branch of Google. And they're supporting us to do a big study into scam and fraud victims. And the trouble with researching scam and fraud victims is that all the existing scholarship so far is about susceptibility to scams.
What does susceptibility mean?
Well, that's a good question, because it means different things to different people, but generally it's a bit of a victim-blaming term. It's a bit of a...
sort of, because you've got this thing wrong with you, that means
you're
you
more
fell
susceptible
for...
to... Yeah, or sort of, why did you fall for a scam? Or there's quite a lot of randomised controlled trials where they might take, like, one group of people with X characteristic and another group of people who don't have that characteristic, give them a kind of pretend scam, see how they do, and they'll be like, oh, group one was more susceptible, so if you prefer buying handbags to shoes, you are more susceptible to scams or something. They make these kind of big statements, and actually, the evidence tells us that that kind of approach to crime prevention is not very successful. So why is that the case for scams? Well, it's because scamming is quite a unique type of crime. It is different to all other crime types. It's transnational, heavily industrialized, really difficult to prosecute, really, really difficult to catch scammers. And if you can't catch the scammers, you can't catch the criminals doing the crime, well, your only option really is to kind of measure victims and to see, is there something, age comes up a lot, like, is it that, and in those sort of groups of comparing people and seeing their response to a pretend scam, older people are often the ones who are measured. And if only one group is being measured again and again and again and again, they get loads of data where some of it will say, oh, yes, older people are more susceptible to scams. But really, actually, it's a methodological bias, because if you just go in with the assumption that there is something to be measured, you end up measuring and measuring. And it's actually a big misconception that, that firstly, that anyone is more susceptible to a scam, because anyone can be scammed.
So, Alice, I'm going to come to James in a moment, and when we talk about the way that we're using AI. But you've talked about what other researchers do. So what are we doing that's different, and how is the GSE's data set being used in that?
Yeah, so we are trying to get as close to the scammer as possible. We're trying to sort of use our massive, massive data set of, I think it's now 1 billion signals. So we've got 1 billion scam and fraud signals, and most of the ones, I think all of the ones in our study are domain names and URLs. And what we do is we take, say, a URL that's been identified maybe in a phishing text or an email.
Just to clarify, a URL is what other people might call a link.
A link, yeah.
So it's
a link.
You're
a dodgy
often
link.
asked to click a link, aren't you?
So if you, I think everyone in this room, I think 50% of the world's population have received some kind of text that might say, your parcel needs a payment made, click this link to make the payment. So we take all those links and we look at them, and we're trying to see, okay, what is the scammer doing here? What is the scammer thinking? And that's been a really big thing in our whole project, and sort of it keeps coming up in training, is like, don't think like the victim, think like the scammer, and think, I'm the scammer, I've sat down to make my scam, how am I going to target my victim? And it's by doing that kind of scammer's point of view that I think we're starting to see some really interesting stories.
James, so whereas Alice is coming from a sort of policy and writing and also a healthcare background where you're thinking a lot about vulnerable characteristics, I know that's the wrong word, but James, you're more from a mathsy side. So Alice has talked about 1 billion signals as being our big data set. Now, not all of those would have a domain name in them. I think the majority are numbers, right? So domains and links are kind of they're unusual because they have a technical function, so they get you from A to B, but they also have words in them, don't they? And tell us about, first of all, what sort of volume of data we're looking at, why, what it can tell us, and how AI can help us.
Absolutely. Yeah, as you said, Alice, we have, I think, nearing or maybe even past a billion.
Past, yeah.
It's past. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, it grows so quickly. Billion signals. Most of those are IP addresses, as you said, so numbers, which we can get some information from. But for this particular project, we are looking at domain-based signals. And so, you have some link that wherever it's been sent, whether in a scam email or text or whatever it is, it might be like payyourtaxesnow.com. And what we're doing is we're looking at the words in that link and we're seeing what meaning can we take from this that can give us an insight into the scammer's brain. What meaning can we take from these words that give us a clue? Who is the scammer targeting? Why did they craft the link this way? And so with Pay Your Taxes Now, for example, you're probably not targeting 5-year-olds, but you might be targeting perhaps working age people, maybe people experiencing financial distress, who might feel more anxious about paying their taxes because they think, I need to pay this, or I need to pay a bigger fine later, and that kind of thing. And so we're able to look at the words to get some meaning from it.
And what sort of volume of domains are there?
Absolutely. So there's, I think, about 70 million now, domain-based signals.
And so 70 million, big number.
Yeah.
Alice, compared to, you've been doing a lot of literature review, so compared to a lot of the other studies that have been done, and a lot of them very, very, good studies, solid studies, is that more or less than others?
A lot more, because the evidence base for scam and fraud research, you'll have a seminal paper, a classic study, and it will be like, we took 50 scam emails and we looked at all the tricks that the scammers were using, and that is the basis of all our academic knowledge at the moment. So obviously the scale of the GSE and its data means that our project's going to be like really on another level.
Yeah, it's an opportunity. Obviously, it doesn't mean that other studies are bad. It's just that they're different. So a lot of studies will be looking at qualitative measures. They might be talking very closely to human beings, and that gives you huge insight. Big numbers like 70 million gives an opportunity to really sort of take a very big view of what's in there. But so let's have a think about how could we, with a team of a small number of researchers, ever read 70 million signals?
It would take ages. It would be really boring.
Very boring.
And I mean, you could do it really good if you employed 70 million people to all read one signal. Then it would take
the whole population of this country do one signal.
Do one signal each.
How consistent do you think those outcomes would be, even if we did that?
Not
probably not.
Even if you could get people to do it.
Yes.
So we have an opportunity to use technology to do something that we couldn't do as a team, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So is the AI good at reading stuff and getting meaning out of it?
It's very good.
Is it scarily good?
I don't know if I'm scared by it, but it is very good.
We're very happy to say. So what we've been doing is, well, I mean, I did human reviewing in a project in 2020, so this was before the era of AI, and what that involved, it was like,
that was with Sam Bradshaw,
get
wasn't
70 million people to all look at one signal each, but it was like sort of 4 or 5 people looking at like thousands of online comments. And it was really mentally taxing because they're all hate comments and they're all very political. And, you do about 5 and you're kind of like, okay. And then you do 100 and you start to feel really just like, I just don't want to read any more of these. They're just so miserable. And then once you've done 1,000 and you're not even halfway there, it really like gets you down. And that was kind of like the gold standard for this kind of research in 2020. And now you know, everyone talks about like AI powered this and AI powered that, but I really see like this is a use of AI where it's helping us with our research. It might help scam victims, and it might help the industry try to catch the scammers on a scale, with a scale of information that was unimaginable in 2020. You know, that study probably had like 4,000 comments, which was a huge piece of work, and you get a lot of insights from that. But also, it's sort of like you think, oh well, you're taking that job away from a human, and it's like, I want that job to be taken away from a human. Reading thousands and thousands of hate comments, and actually, it's something that, you know, I've been sort of talking to the team about a lot. Is like, we're just looking at links, but some of them can be really sad, and you sort of read them, and you're like, oh, this was used to target like a child or a really vulnerable person, and you can just tell.
Do you have any examples that come to mind, or I can come back to you on that?
Yeah, well, there was one. I remember there was one. I mean, it's not that sort of thing, but there's lots of scams that really clearly target neurodivergent people. So there was this one that was like neurospicyrecipes.com, which sounds really like unassuming on the surface. But, you know, from being a speech therapist, from working with loads of neurodivergent people, I know that that's like a really niche in-group term that is used by neurodivergent people, like neurospicy, as a kind of rejection of a medicalization of neurodivergence. And so it's like, that's such a kind of insidious stalker level
like,
of knowledge.
I'm your friend.
I'm part of your
in-group.
I'm a trusted person. Here's some information. And it's sort of, I think the ones that really get to me are ones where you feel like there's been some like stalking, and it's very predatory, and or just, you know, ones where it's like, for really old people, you just feel very emotional, and it's like, well, I'd actually rather an AI read 75 million of those than a human have to do it.
Yeah, thank you.